Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, all our faithful listeners. This podcast comes at a very fortuitous juncture, rather. India's largest road race, the Tata Mumbai Marathon, is barely 2 weeks away. It's on the 21st of January 2024. Aamchi Mumbai, as always, will open its heart and arms to host runners from all parts of the country, in fact, even different parts of the world, as they line up at the CSMT, Chhatrapati Shivaji Mumbai Terminus, or Mahim, depending on whether they are running the marathon or the half marathon distance. Just some trivia on the TMM. This is the 19th edition of the Mumbai Marathon. We missed two editions to COVID 19 in 2021 and 2022, respectively. Standard Chartered was the title sponsor until about 2017, if I'm not wrong. And then from 2018, the Tatas, like they've been picking up most of the, assets in this country quite responsibly. So, if I may add, picked up the Mumbai Marathon as well. What makes TMM so special? What does it take to run a half or a full marathon? Or for that matter, now you have a 10K as well over there, if I'm not wrong, at TMM. More importantly, what drives that indomitable spirit of the Mumbaiker to come on the streets to cheer and support runners on race day? It's important to note that a lot of Indian races don't see the kind of crowd support that Mumbai sees, and that's one of the key reasons why runners every year make this an annual pilgrimage in their running calendar. They go back to Mumbai for the support, for the cheer, for the vibes that the city generates. So to answer these questions, we decided that we'll pick on the brains of two seasoned runners. One happens to be from Mumbai, and as coincidentally, or as luck would have it, both of them are pacers this year. Tamil and Veera join us in this particular podcast. Tamil, aka Tamilarasan, he pays the 155 bus at the TMM 2023, and he is coming back to do his duties again. He's loved the job so much that he's coming back to he's kind of becoming a Puru the Guru kind of image, I think, with the 155 bus. So a brief introduction of Tamil. He's the captain of the Adidas Runners Mumbai chapter and coach at You Inspire Run. He's an ACSM certified marathon trainer. He's run more than 100 running events. I'm sure there's more added to this. This was circa 2023, or rather 2022, when we spoke to him the last time. From being a hobby runner to developing passion, and from being a passionate runner to now being at a place where running has become an identity, Tamil has indeed come a long, long way. One of the lesser known facts about Tamil, at least for the people who live outside Mumbai, is that what really inspires him to run is to actually make a South Indian community run, especially the girl community from Dharavi. So we'll talk about that probably a little later, or you could refer to the previous edition or the podcast that we did with respect to the previous edition of the Tata Mumbai Marathon to learn more about it. So welcome, Tamil. Always a pleasure to have you in this space. Which brings me to a person who certainly needs no introduction. Most of the runners, fitness community members, fitness fraternity, if I can call that, know this gentleman, know the brand that this gentleman leads, Fast and Up, basically. We're talking about Vijayaraghavan Venugopal, who we fondly refer to as V-Ra also. He's been running since 2012 and is currently based in Bangalore. He's got the unique distinction of running eight sub 3 hour marathons. I'll repeat that: eight sub 3 hour marathons, which include a Boston finish as well, right? A personal best of 2 hours and 54 minutes for the marathon. And he also has the unique distinction of pacing uh, the 90-minute bus at this year's Vedanta Delhi Half Marathon. This was the first time that an Indian race actually put up a 90-minute bus, and Veera has the unique distinction of bringing that bus home successfully. Welcome, Veera. It's a pleasure to have you on this space.
Thanks, Karthik. Thanks, Geeks on Feet, and hello, Tamil.
Hi, hi.
So, guys, we're gonna we're gonna dive directly into the questions, basically, right, or the discussion regarding the Mumbai Marathon, and I'm gonna kind of start with you, Veera. The Mumbai Marathon has one of the finest expos that any race has to offer in India, be it the venue, the size, the scale of the expo. It all makes it a very, very unique experience. um, when are you going to be there at the expo, basically, and what are your thoughts with respect to the expo?
Well, needless to say, Karthik, the TMM Expo is one of the largest and the most happening expos because you get people from across the country coming into Mumbai. I remember 10, 12 years back, probably it was a 2 day affair, maybe. But I think in the last couple of years, they made it a 4 day affair, which helps people both inside the city as well as outside to come in and participate. For us, being a brand, the brand itself will be there for the 4 days, starting on Wednesday. But personally, I would be there on Friday and Saturday. And this time, because I have one more responsibility of being a pacer, and I found out to my goodness or whatever that Saturday is a chocker blocked day if you are a pacer,
Okay.
and I think you do a lot of efforts on Saturday, meeting people, etc. So this time Saturday is also going to be busy for me personally as a pacer.
Right. So I think, yeah, I've always wondered, I've come to different expos and I've seen you at the Fast and Up stall, and I always wonder how this guy, does the balancing act of racing and representing the band, and this time the brand, and this time, the added responsibility of being a bus. So if I didn't mention it, Veera is pacing the 3 hour 30-minute bus. Again, if I'm not wrong, a unique distinction for an Indian race, particularly for the Tata Mumbai Marathon. I think they're putting up a bus, a 3 hour 30-minute bus for the first time, basically. So Veera will be seen doing that responsibilities in addition to whatever he has to do at the expo. Which kind of brings me to you, Tamil. When are you going to be around at the expo? You've already done the drill once. How different is it going to be this year?
Uh, this year would be more challenging because we have a lot of runners who have come up with a question of how the bus is going to be, and what would be the pace we'll be maintaining. Like already a month ago, so would be more exciting since I would be having a lot of runners in my bus. Like even last year when I finished, I had almost 35 runners along with me finishing. So yes, so we have already created the WhatsApp group for the runners, and it would be exciting. So I would be again there at the expo on both Friday and Saturday. So Fridays would be with the team, like the training team, which I do to collect my bib and stuff, and for Saturdays to meet up with runners and discuss the plan.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So yeah, let's cut the chase and get to probably the specifics of the race. So this time around, when we've been discussing and we've been seeing this chatter going along in different running groups, and some of us ran Chennai also last Saturday. So this question becomes even more relevant now. The weather seems to be, the last time around the weather was excellent, basically, but this time around, since it's falling almost towards the third Sunday of January, right? The weather might not be at its, the weather gods might not be in the best of their humor as they were last year. So, from that perspective, since both of you are pacing, right? What would be your advice to runners, especially runners who come from, let us say, colder climes, right? People who come from a Delhi or the northern part of the country, or from a Bangalore, where the weather is on an average on a 14-15 degree in the morning around the time we start, to a 25 to 26 to 27 degrees when you start in the morning. So what would be your kind of advice, given that there's 2 weeks to the race? What would be your advice to these runners who are coming in from the colder climes? How do they acclimatize to a Mumbai kind of weather? Veera, will go with you first.
Well, I think Tamil would have a better idea because he's from Mumbai, but I think I have a fairly good idea of how the weather is in Mumbai based on the experience. Even 10, 12 years back, I used to be in Pune when I started running. I mean, I did the first uh, Mumbai Marathon in the year 2013, if I believe, if I think so. And I mean, in Pune also used to have similar climates like Bangalore at that point of time. Very cold, cooler rather compared to Mumbai. And one of the things that I used to do at that point of time was to do a half marathon in the middle of the day at around 2 o'clock
Okay.
to kind of get acclimatized to the weather conditions in Mumbai. So I used to do a half marathon or a 21-kilometer run around 2:30 in the afternoon
Wow.
uh, just to get acclimatized. But those were those days. But having said that, coming back to your question, Karthik, I think everyone has to trust the training that they have done, whether they are from Bangalore or Mumbai or Delhi or wherever they are from, because at the end of the day, training is what will get you to the finish line. Mumbai has always had temperatures maybe 20 to 27, 25, and as the day goes by, it becomes a little warmer. So you might have to moderate it, but I think the training is what will hold the key, and probably on the race day, not jumping the gun, because the initial half an hour, 45 minutes is going to be a little bit more easier, but as the day goes by, it's going to be a little bit warmer. So having enough in your fuel tank is always going to help you at the end. So these are basic stuff that I typically tend to keep in mind when doing the Mumbai.
Fantastic. And it's noteworthy to mention this time around, the race has been advanced by 15 minutes. So typically, what used to be a 5:35 race long ago became a 5:15 race over the last couple of years. And this time around, both the half and the full start at 5 a.m. So at least the half marathon runners might not bear the full brunt of the weather that the full marathon crowd is going to face. So Tamil, what is you are on the ground, you are at battleground zero. What is and you paced the last time around, and you're kind of seeing the weather this time around. What is we want to pick your brains on that. What do you think? How's race day weather going to be, and what is your piece of advice to the half marathoners?
Okay. 2023, Mumbai was blessed with a beautiful weather. I mean, we had a 5:15 start and the weather was awesome. I believe even the full marathoners, made the best out of it at the start. And so this year, considering the weather, like the last two Sundays were pretty humid. Uh, we had done a run at NCPA Marine Line, so the weather was a bit humid. Considering that, the half marathoners still have a good chance, to go for an easy go. I mean, it would be almost an easy go for the half marathoners, but when it comes to the full marathoners, they have to be very mindful in selecting their race pace. Okay, so you'll have to see the weather condition in the morning and then choose accordingly what pace you're gonna hold on to. And the other thing is hydration. So they'll have to take care of the hydration. Suppose if they are coming from a cooler climate and they have long gaps between their hydration, they'll have to reduce that and stick out accordingly to the weather. Also, one more thing. The full marathoners, when they return back to the finish line, they would be almost having the sun on their head. So that's one thing. So pick up as many bottles as you can and keep hydrating throughout the run.
I think there's some really important points, and I just want to kind of summarize them. Right, one thing is, think on your feet. Don't let. I think both of you, Veera alluded to that, and you kind of reinforced that point. Don't press on the ego pedal. Basically, if you make adjustments based on what the weather looks like. If it's a few seconds slower than what you are targeting, so be it, right? The other important thing that you mentioned was fueling, actually, right? A lot of us who come from cooler climes don't kind of realize the importance of fueling. And I'm not talking about drinking water alone here. I'm talking about fueling with an electrolyte, basically. And that's something that a lot of us, kind of take for granted in colder climes, but when you come to the warmer climates, that's always going to make a crucial difference, basically, right? So maybe that's another very important point. And I think I really like that third point. When you are on your way back, right, especially for the full marathoners, there is this section from, let's say, the entire Marine Drive section, basically, which is pretty much no tree cover, actually, right? No shade, actually, and you are exposed to the vagaries of the weather. So ensure that you are fueled well before you reach that point, rather than start fueling after you reach that point. So I think those are some great points that you make, which kind of brings me to the other key concern that we've been hearing a lot. Mumbai is in a constant churn. There's so much of construction activity happening. There is the new uh, ceilings, richer cousin who's coming up, basically, right? The Trans Harbor Link and so on and so forth. And as a result of all this, Mumbai is kind of now saying Delhi had the upper hand all these days. Now we are matching. Mumbaikars are now matching. They're saying, we are now giving Delhi a run for its money in terms of the AQI. So yeah, let me cut the BS and come to the point. AQI seems to be a serious concern in Mumbai now more than ever, basically. And as both of you are pacers, I want to hear from you, basically. How would you allay this particular fear or concern that a lot of runners are now showing, basically, that the air quality index has actually come down? Are there any adjustments or hacks that you can think of on how this can be countered, or is this a lot of fear mongering that's just going around?
Yeah, so Karthik, in terms of the first point that you alluded to was the route itself. I think we will have to wait for Procam to come back and the organizers to put out the final route.
Hmm.
But having said that, I think for the majority of the route, the elevation and the route doesn't change much because I think what matters really is that the pedal road climb and the ceiling part where there's probably a lot of wind out there. But
Hmm.
otherwise, it's pretty much flat, the route per se. So I
Hmm.
think that will should not be much of a bother, even though the route may finally be coming out in a few days or whatever, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
On the AQI itself, I think it's a matter of concern for the city per se, but for running or runners,
Hmm.
I think all of us, a lot of people have trained throughout the year. So it's not that day itself which would matter too much
Right.
for seasoned runners, because I think where AQI and pollution will have an effect is over a long-term perspective, right? When you keep running. So for the race day itself, I would not give it too much of a credence uh,
Right.
because if you are well trained and well hydrated and your strategies are in place,
Hmm.
uh, you should be able to carry the day through, day through, right?
Right.
The AQI is more for other consumption, if I would say, from a long term perspective, not
Right.
specifically for the race day. I would think that's my perspective.
Fantastic. That really makes sense. Tamal, you want to add something to that?
Yes, I totally agree with Vijay. And yeah, the AQI shouldn't matter much for the runners, but yes, the route is not yet out. So once we have the final route, the route map or the course map, it should be easy to analyze your run, like where you need to pace up, where you need to slow down. Again, pedal road and ceiling. So people who have run many marathons, the TMM, like they must be used to running there, so won't be much of an issue. And yes, the one thing you'll miss is the view. So the Worli sea phase, so before that, the view which we had, the sea view, the Arabian Sea view, we won't be having that now, because that entire thing is blocked and you cannot see anything. It's just constructions work happening there.
Ah, okay. Because of construction,
Construction.
there's that beautiful view is kind of
You'll be missing that
okay,
view. Yeah.
inevitable when a city is in a constant churn, basically. But yeah, let's wait for the route. I think that's a good perspective. Indian running has grown over the last decade. This stands testimony to that fact. Okay, so now that kind of brings us to the important question, right? Pacing. And I'm going to spend a lot of time in this section because both of you are pacing. So, Vijay, uh, why the 3:30 bus?
Well, so I was not. I would not have known that I would have paced in the near future, but I think it just happened coincidentally that the VDHM happened in October,
Uh,
or rather, was it November? I forget. But so that happened, and so I enjoyed that journey that I had during leading that 130 bus, and I was anyway slated to do a program slam because never have I done all the four events in one cycle, and this year I was intent on completing it, and TMM was on the cards in any case. So my race that I'm preparing was or is rather the Tokyo Marathon, which falls on March 3rd. So any which ways, the Mumbai Marathon was not going to be a all-out race, and so I felt I could take up the task of pacing and as well complete my program slam and as well complete my marathon training as it was.
mhm,
So getting back to the pace, so I was clear that I would want to do something which one kind of helps people.
mhm,
That is one. And I remember 10 years back, 330 was a big thing then. But no longer it is. I remember when I was in Pune and I did the 2013 full marathon, which was my debut marathon.
mhm.
I think just, I don't know whether even one person went under 330. So maybe one person or not even one person. It was all 332, 334 kind of zone at that point of time.
Right.
So I know how big a milestone it was and still is for a lot of people to do a 330 or sub 330. The second reason why I felt a 330 was better than, say, a 325 or a 320
Mhm,
is that I feel that as a pacer, like Tamil alluded to, I think there's a lot of happiness and pride when more people join your bus, right,
mhm,
and finish. There is no fun in doing a 320 and you finishing alone, right,
mhm,
or two
mhm,
people finishing with you. So I think 330 gives an opportunity for more people to be there.
mhm.
And also, one more point, Karthik, you kind of talked about was the number of women who could join the bus, right?
Right.
So that was one thing I felt not too happy when I did the VDHM pacing.
Right.
The number of women who were around.
Mhm,
But I think 330 is, I know a lot of women aspire to break the 330 mark,
mhm,
maybe a handful, but there will be a few people who are, who won't want to break the 330 mark. And if I can help them, that'll be a great thing for me. That'll be a good, nice thing for me. And the last thing, why 330 is it's a pace. I'm looking at a sub 3 hour run at Tokyo,
mhm,
and my current training and level of fitness is at that level.
mhm,
So 330 is a level where it just gives me that spurt of training on that particular day over a 42-kilometer run,
mhm.
and doesn't give it to me too easily, but doesn't push me too hard as well on that day. So these are some of the reasons why 330 was a good bus to jump in.
Fantastic, fantastic. Makes for very interesting hearing. Tamal, that brings me to you. The last time around we spoke, you said this year you're going to race basically, but lo and behold, you're back to the your pacing duties, and it's again the 155 bus. What is so special about the 155 bus that you are sacrificing racing for the greater cause of pacing?
Okay, so when it comes to 155, the main goal is like people who target sub 2. Because people who
Right.
target sub 2, they mostly stick to either 150 bus or 155 or the 205 bus. So, yeah, so last year it was a great experience running with, so many runners around, and people were breaking their records by, 15, 16 minutes. So, and that was a great motivation for me to get into more of pacing. And so when I hear from the people like who have broken their records, they are uh, you know they are performing much better now. So those who did 155 are going under 140. So
Mhm.
it's a kind of push for them. So they never believed that they could do a pace of 527 for the entire half marathon. So yeah, 155 I would say. I'm picking it from the last year, since I had a lot of runners around my run. I had to choose 155. So basically, I was given the 150 bus, but I opt to choose the 155.
Okay. And if I have to ask you, three lessons that you learned from your last pacing experience that you would, three things that you would do differently this time around, from what you did last time around.
So when it comes to pacing, have been pacing a lot of events across Mumbai. Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah, so last year I would share my experience in Jaipur, where I failed my run. Like at the 12th kilometer, I had a jerk in my lower back, and I had to quit the pacing assignment. So that was my
Hmm.
first DNF.
Hmm.
Considering all the runs, all the races I've run, so that's my first DNF, and that too when I was pacing. So
Hmm.
that let me down a lot, and I had to pick myself from there. So I think TMM is the best race to get myself back on track.
Fantastic. Um, of course, Procam will be putting out the pacer information. Already, I think WhatsApp groups have been created, and they've been doing the rounds today. There is a whole cavalry of pacers that have been appointed this time, both in the marathon and the full marathon. Sorry, the half marathon category. So that information is going to be available, and primarily the pacers are going to be communicating with you through the WhatsApp groups. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't joined the WhatsApp groups, please make sure that you join a WhatsApp group of the particular bus that you want to be a part of, basically. And from what we see, there is a bell curve. So when we, so Arvind, I mean, I know a loud shout out to Arvind, or a call out to Arvind for mining this fantastic data. And if we look at the finisher time, it's a complete, what can I call it, bell curve, basically, right? Where the maximum number of finishers, be it the full marathon or the half marathon category, are in that. Well, let's see this, 350 to about, well, not 354 till about, uh, well, 5-ish hour category, right? In the marathon. And in the half marathon, it's somewhere around the 2 to the about 230 kind of a category. So this is where, and Procam has been very diligent in kind of, having a lot of pacers cover this range. So kudos to Procam for that, basically. Right. Okay. Now let's talk about the course proper, right? Um, is there's a dichotomy between the full and the half from what I see in Mumbai. I mean, on the one side, Tamil talks about people improving by 15 and 16 minutes, which is not so common, of course, in the marathon category. I mean, we can't talk about a 15 or 16-minute improvement. But the question that I'm kind of alluding to over here is Mumbai? Can you actually negative split in the marathon in Mumbai, Vijay?
So for me, I think for me, primarily it's difficult to negative split in a marathon for amateurs. That's the school of thought I come from. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, so secondly, I think Mumbai, you would typically want to have some comfort in the first half, and then play it a little safe in the second half, um,
Hmm.
because of whatever you hear around, like whatever we have talked about, the temperature, the pedal climb, and the sun coming out, and uh, so I think from the 4 5 full marathons that I have run in Mumbai, I would still not be courageous to do a negative split in Mumbai. So that's just coming from me. But there could be, I would say, 1 or 2 people out of 10 people, or even less than that, right? Who would and who can manage a negative split. But that's all, I think, according to their own strategy. But by and large, I think Mumbai is a difficult course for a negative split.
So one of the eight sub threes was at Mumbai, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah, one of the eight sub threes that was in year 2018, if I remember correctly,
Okay, okay.
where it was a 258 finish at that point.
258 finish, right? So and I really like that. So what you're saying is a little bit of time in the bank is always a better way to approach it, rather than leave too much at the end, basically, more so on a course like Mumbai, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I again go back to a cricketing analogy, right? If it was a flat pitch, if the ball doesn't do anything on the pitch, then you can actually go out and hit how many ever runs in the last over. But I think Mumbai, in general, will throw things at you at the last 10 kilometers. So
Right.
when you have some variability coming in to the last 10 kilometers, I would ideally like to have some cushion with me to play that.
Wonderful. Interesting. In fact, we did an interesting analysis on this as well. And what we did notice was that as the times got faster, right? I mean, as you came closer to that magical 3 hour mark, a marathon finish, the number of negative splits dropped drastically, basically. So let's say in a 5 hour kind of a segment you had it's always been less, but there, for a 5 hour or a 4 hour kind of category, you would still see a couple of negative splits happening, not a whole lot, but still less. But as you came closer to the 3 hour, it became even more difficult, right? So that's an interesting analogy, which kind of brings me to you, Tamil. Would it be the same strategy for the half marathon? Hold back in the first half, because a half marathon is is finished before it's over, right? I mean, you employ a different strategy. So, do you employ a different strategy when it comes to Mumbai vis-a-vis the half marathon? Do you do a negative split, or would you still say a positive split?
Well, I would say an even split would be, good to go. So basically, when we started Mahim, okay, we have a lot of U-turns, right? So we have a lot
Mm-hmm.
of U-turns before reaching the ceiling. So I would say at the initial 2 to 3 kilometers, I would say stick to an easy pace, and then on the
Mm-hmm.
ceiling, make the best out of it. And when you reach out to pedal road, again slow down, and in the last stretch, you can give in your best. So yes, negative split in the half marathon is possible, but make sure the initial 2 3 kilometers you hold on to your horses.
Uh-huh. Interesting. So you're saying it's almost like a even to a negative kind of a split for the half marathon, as opposed to a positive split for the full marathon, basically, right? And in fact, our data also seems to suggest that, right? There are more negative splits that you get to see, especially around that 2 hour mark, right? You do see a fairly more proportionate number of negative splits in Mumbai as compared to the marathon counterpart. So, pretty interesting. To summarize, positive splits for the marathon, and even to probably negative splits for the half marathon. And let me just add a quick question here. Is this going to be the strategy that you guys are going to employ in your pacing duties also?
Yes.
Vijay will go with, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Tamil, you can probably go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just sticking to the last year's same strategy, considering the weather
Okay.
would be a little here and there, but then kind of an even pace. So starting off with an easy pace, again, what I
Hmm.
said is like picking up the pace at the ceiling, and
Hmm.
before reaching the pedal road, you slow down a bit, and then once you get down out of pedal road, and it's an again an even pace.
All right. All right.
So
Got it.
seasoned runners who
Perfect.
can cross the pedal road. I mean, once they cross the pedal road, they can push off. Maybe if they're sticking to 155 bus, they may end up in 152 or 153. And
Mhm.
the amateurs who have just started, or targeting their 155 or sub two, can stick to an even pace after pedal road, not even pushing. So there's a lot of pressure when you come down from the pedal road. So
Mm.
just do not get carry forward. Uh, Stick to your strategy. So
Stick to your strategy, indeed. Vijay, how about
For me,
you?
as I was telling you earlier, so it would be a slightly positive split. Why I would be comfortable with a 143, around 143 first half, and going to 145 to 147 kind of second half, which will give you around about time of 3:30, but uh, definitely slightly faster first half.
A slightly faster first half. Perfect. Okay, so as we are talking about the course, it only makes sense to ask both of you, and Vijay, I'm going to start with you again here. Which is your favorite part of this course, and which is that part of this course that you really feel that you just want to get done with it?
So I've never done a half marathon in Mumbai. I've always been a full
Oh.
marathoner, and I've had the ups and downs of Mumbai. So I did a debut full marathon in 2013, and I think I the only race I did not finish was also in Mumbai in 2016 or so, 2016 or 17, 2016 I think,
Mhm.
and also did a wonderful race in 2018 and 2019. I really loved the race because again I was supposed to do a full marathon in February end,
Mhm.
and I took Mumbai as a easy training run, and I had the fortune of pacing some of the guys who were close to that 3 hour mark at that point of time. Okay. But when I look back at all the marathons that I've done in Mumbai, I think both the most challenging as well as the most happier moments for me starts from the way back, starting from Pedder Road, because that's the time when it gets to you that you are probably in pain, but there's a crowd which is cheering you right up. Okay. And once you come down again, it's going to be a flat course or the marine drive, but it's still the last part of the race, right? And you have plenty of people cheering you all the way around. You know the finish is near, but yet not near.
Right,
It's still
right.
some way to go. So for me, both the challenging as well as the most the part that I like the most is also from the Pedder Road to the end.
Okay.
The part that I don't really like too much, even though it is fantastic view while driving in a car or a vehicle, is the ceiling. Um, it's just because as a runner, I don't like too much of open areas around me, because you tend to put in that extra effort, and it's a loss of energy that you are spending, which
Uh-huh.
could be helpful later in the day. And also, when running in a group, uh, I've seen that a lot of times there are not people who are ready to take it. I mean, help take the lead and shield you from the wind. Everyone wants to duck behind, and somebody needs to take up the charge. And invariably, I've ended up in the front, which I don't like.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I'm one of those culprits basically. So the first idea when we take that left onto Sea Link is look for a taller runner and just draft behind him. Let him do all the work basically, at least until we get out of Sea Link, and just stay tucked behind them. So runners do tend to get selfish, especially on the Sea Link stretch basically. But good that you summarized it beautifully. You talked about the two key landmarks, right? The Sea Link on the one side and the Pedder on the other side. We'll come back to both of them in the next question. But Tamil, how about you on the half marathon stretch? Which are your favorite? Which are the sections that you really love, and which are the sections that you just want to get done with?
Okay, so when it comes to half marathon, it would be quite opposite to what Vijay said. So earlier, when prior to COVID, when we had the route course where we started from Worli. Okay, so I would again agree with Vijay. Like ceiling, it was the boring, was the boring part of the race course. I mean, so when you end up, coming to Bandra, when we started from Worli and we come out to Bandra, so there's a slight tilt on the road. Like if you feel like when you're running on the ceiling, when you finish towards Bandra, there's a slight tilt.
Mm.
So it drags you to your right. So your running form and your efficiency gets a little affected. So that gets a little bit of distraction when you end towards Bandra. since it's starting from Mahim, so ceiling is the best course, I would say, where you can push yourself more. And apart from ceiling, again, start of Pedder Road, where you find a lot of running groups standing on both sides of the road and pushing you, waving you hi-fi and stuff like that. So again, so ceiling and Pedder Road, like the start of Pedder Road till the end of the course. That's my favorite zone at TMU for the half marathon.
Fantastic. And I'm really happy you brought out these two important points, right? There's a myth that a lot of runners carry that sea link is flat. Sea link is not flat. At least the first part of the sea link, especially like you said, towards Bandra from the Worli side, basically, does have a gentle incline, basically. Before you kind of when you exit on the Bandra side, you basically it kind of gets into a downhill section. So it's interesting when we mine data, we also saw that that was one section, and this comes out of conversations that I had with a couple of runners last year at the finish line as well, right? A lot of us actually struggled to maintain pace in the first half of the ceiling. Basically, I'm talking about marathoners here, right? I'm not sure how it works with the half marathoners, but at least with marathoners, the experience we saw was that until you reach that highest point of the ceiling, runners were actually struggling to hold pace. After which, there's this gentle downhill that takes you all the way, towards Mahim, basically, where you really kind of gain um, the momentum, if you will, right? And so these were some interesting facts that came out, right? That that was one section where the average pace kind of slows down, and of course, Pedder has to be the other stretch where things really kind of slow down. Which kind of brings me to the next question. There's again a lot of fear in the newbie runners, or there's a lot of hula boo, if you will, around Pedder. So Vijay, demystify Pedder for us. Is it as scary, the scary monster that it's made out to be, or is it more about where it comes in the context of the full marathon that makes it a little challenging?
A mix of these things. One, I think whenever you go into Mumbai, better is what is talked about, not just now, last 10 years, 12 years since I've been running. It's not so much about better for a full marathoner. I think it actually strikes you much before that. I mean, as a first timer in
Mhm.
Mumbai, um I started walking at around 30 kilometers or so. So that's much before pedder actually comes in.
Right.
I mean, it's basically hitting the wall, right? For
Right.
newcomers, for newbies, it's basically a question of how much glycogen reserves they have, and
Absolutely.
you don't need to wait till pedder to find out that it happens much before that. And I think on the Worli side, I think where you have you go all the way down and take a turn before you again get into that Haji Ali route, etc. Uh,
Right.
that's probably the most challenging part, because that's when you know whether you have lost the full marathon or you still have got it in you to finish the rest of the uh, you know uh, 12, 13 kilometers or
So
even more.
something like, let's say, from about the 24, 25 to the 32-kilometer
Maybe
range.
28 to 32 kind of thing.
That's like a no man's land kind
No
of.
man's land, right?
Hmm,
That's when it breaks you. In
hmm,
fact, better is not too much of an issue, in my opinion.
hmm,
Even if you are a newcomer or newbie or even an experienced runner.
hmm.
Just to put it in perspective, better is where you get the maximum amount of crowd support, right?
Right.
Which is fantastic. Nowhere else in the country would you get so much of crowd support in a full marathon, right?
Hmm.
It defines what Mumbai Marathon is all about, right?
Absolutely.
Uh, and come to think of it, okay, when you're in the first half, you just have to climb it from the other side.
Hmm,
But come to think of it, it's just once that you have to climb something in the second half,
hmm,
right?
hmm, hmm, hmm.
And also, just bear in mind, once you climb that with all the crowd support that you have, post that it's a decline,
True.
right? And
True.
then you hit the marine drive where you are almost getting towards the end, right? So if you have the right, I think the mindset,
Hmm.
the mind winning over the physical aspects, I think
Hmm.
better should not be that much of a problem.
Hmm.
Uh, the point that I've always felt is the mind gets stronger than the body from the 30th kilometer or so. When you start walking, when you start taking it, thinking it that you cannot do it, and that's when probably the pedal becomes a little bit more difficult. But pedal, in fact, is a very enjoyable route, enjoyable stretch, I would say, if you count the crowd support.
So basically, what you're saying is that your race, in all possibility, I mean, when I'm saying your, I'm just talking about anybody, right? Can get screwed much before pedder if you're not diligent about it, basically, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's about how you navigate till about the 32 or 33. Depending on how you reach 32, pedder can either be a monster or actually be, that strong push that you need. You talked about the downhill, basically, after that,
Yeah.
that momentum to maneuver the last 4 kilometers. And I,
Yeah.
and I also like that interesting point you made. Pedder is not just about the return path. There is pedder on the way up as well when you're starting in the morning. But the only thing is you're probably on fresher legs, basically, right? Early in the morning, the weather's not beating down on you, and you kind of navigate it with relative ease, if you will. Very, very interesting perspective. Tamil, what are your insights on pedder?
Well, Karthik, like for the last edition, we discussed like for me, Pedder Road was an easy go. Yeah, so for the half marathoners, it comes around at the 12, 13, 13 kilometers, right? So the first half, I would say 60% is uphill, and like Vijay said, the last part is completely downhill. So once you cross that, the first half of the pedal road, you hit a downhill, and there's a small bump. Okay, so there's a small bump. You
Hmm.
just climb over it, and you won't feel that when you are at a coming from a downhill run, right? So you
Hmm.
cross that, and there is a long stretch of downhill, and then you enter to the Marine Drive, like the Churney
Hmm.
Road stuff. So yeah, Pedder Road is like, do not get into your mind, like do not take it to your mind like that's a difficult course. It's not like that. It's what you do in the first half, like in the first 12, 10, 12 kilometers, what you do will decide how your Pedder Road goes.
Right, right. Makes sense, makes sense. Okay. Okay, so we're almost at the end of the hour, basically, right? Let's talk some fun. Tamil, I'm going to start with you. Where are your Adidas folks basically putting up a cheer zone on the course so that, runners can derive some positive energy and vibes from it?
Well, so we have two stations this year. One is at the 9.2 kilometers at the half marathon course at the Fasten Up
Mhm.
station, and the second one is at the 9.5, the Fuse station. So both stations are close by,
Oh, so did you say the
two
9.2 and
kilometers and
the
9.5.
Okay, they're pretty close to
Very
each other,
close, yes.
actually. Okay. Hmm. So, Vijay, you guys are putting up a cheer zone as well this year, or has it been a regular affair over the last couple of editions, basically? When I say you, I mean Fasten Up,
Yeah,
basically.
we would have obviously the energy drink stations, the gels being given out. I have to reconfirm the kilometers, etc.
Hmm.
But you will have the famous Mumbai Dole, which will be played, but it's probably mostly for the dream runners this time.
Uh-huh.
And we are also looking at seeing whether the drink itself can be served in a different format this time. So
Oh,
that's something of a confirmation which will come in a few days' time. So in a ready to drink format, if we can supply.
oh,
So that's
so,
something
okay.
that we are looking at. So these are some of the things that we are trying to do this time.
So is this initiative that you talk about? You say in due course of time, of course, I mean, Fasten Up will reveal the details. But is this a first of a kind that you're doing in a race in
No, it's not
India?
a first of a kind. It's basically something that we have looked at for ease, making sure that all logistics operations in a marathon becomes easier. So it's a normal bottle delivery format that we would be looking at this year.
Oh,
But
okay.
again, we'll get to know for sure in a couple of days.
Fantastic. We'll keep our eyes and ears open in that case. And out of your experiences, right? You've come, you've raced, right? Good, bad. ugly, whatever it is, basically, right? After that, of course, runners party. So, what are your favorite uh, watering holes, pubs slash restaurants in Mumbai, where you guys usually wind up after a hard day at the office, that is the TMM. uh, I'll come to the local guy later, but Vijay, what are your favorite, some of the favorite places, joints where you end up uh, after TMM?
So, incidentally, Mumbai was the place where I first worked
Okay.
very early in the year 2002 or so, right? So I know the South Mumbai part reasonably well from those times. Typically, in the early days, in the last 10 years of my running journey in TMM, we used to catch up at either Cafe Mondegar or Leopold.
Hmm.
Uh, but I think things have changed. So now, after getting a little older, you kind of get to a much more calmer, smaller place. But the fun part is that when you are in, say, a Cafe Mondegar or Leopold, you get to meet a lot of people uh,
Right.
who you otherwise wouldn't meet,
Uh,
and it gives a true marathon or a run feeling when you see those people with all that happiness, and many of them with the medals around. It
right.
gives a true sense of joy. So I think I really love that vibe which happens around in Mumbai.
Right. So yeah, you're right. I mean, you see people who directly probably finish the race and just come to, the nearest pub, be it Mondegar, Leopold, Kalagoda Cafe, or whatever it is, basically, and you have groups and people, traveling people traveling from all cities, and they're there in different. You get to see how diverse this running community is. You get to see it in all its vibrancy and in different hues and colors. So. Tamil, I mean, your gang, kind of literally hijacks places nowadays. So, which particular watering hole or pub or restaurant are the Adidas runners hijacking this time around?
Uh, so for this year, it's not yet fixed. So runners coming in from Bangalore and Delhi. So it would be a big get together for the entire. I mean, Adidas runners India, and even a few flying down from abroad. So yeah, so it's not yet fixed. So maybe somewhere around in and around Bandra.
In and around Bandra. Okay. So and has the community, I mean the number of people in the community who are participating in the Mumbai Marathon, I'm sure those numbers have grown by leaps and bounds, let's say compared to last year and the year before. Well, the year before we didn't have it, but compared to last year, I'm sure there's going to be a bigger number, right? Okay. So Vijay, a quick question there as well. How many people from Fasten Up actually run the? I mean, that's a luxury, but how many people from Fasten Up actually run the Tata Mumbai Marathon?
So we are not a large organization like the Tatas or the Reliance. As you know, we're still a small company, but I think we have around 50 to 70 people running different formats, uh,
Wait,
including
did you say 50 to 70 people?
yeah, 50 to
And in the
70.
same breath, you said you're not a large organization as well, actually.
Yeah, when people talk
Interesting.
about thousands and tens of thousands, 50 to 70 people running in different formats, including the Dream Run, the 10K, the half, and the full.
Uh-huh.
And you should also remember that a lot of us don't typically run the Mumbai Marathon because we have duties behind the scene for making
Absolutely.
sure the runners have a good experience. Uh,
Right.
so there are a lot of other people waiting in the wings to run, but nevertheless we have to balance along with the responsibility of being the energy drink partner. But I have to say that from the time that we have been associated with the Mumbai Marathon as a brand in 2020, the numbers internally of people who have taken up running has only grown, which just
Mm.
shows that if you have a good ecosystem and if you
Mhm.
have good examples around you who run, then naturally or automatically you have other people looking up to you and taking up running, and at the end of the day it all benefits them, leading to better fitness.
Fantastic, fantastic. and we just cannot leave you without asking this question. Even though you guys are doing pacing duties, what are the what are your what is your go-to pair of shoes for the Mumbai Marathon? In fact, let me put it this way, right, Vijay? If you were racing, what would that pair be? Now that you're pacing, what would that pair be, like, basically?
So I'm just to be neutral. So I love all the shoes that I wear. So I have raced with Essex. I've raced with Saucony. I train with Brooks. I've tried Nike, the carbon plated version when it came out. And But I think I've gone back to the brand that I started with 10, 12 years back, which is also happens to be Tamil's favorite now,
Oh wow.
uh, which is Adidas. So it's just how comfortable you are at that time.
All
In
right.
fact, Puma too has some fantastic shoes which I train with right now. But when it comes to racing on the race day, I want to replicate what I would be doing on the race day in Tokyo. So I would
Right.
possibly be wearing the same running shoe that I would be racing in Tokyo, which happens to be the Adidas, uh, uh, the carbon plated version of that.
The Adios.
Adios Pro 3.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, Tamil, what about you? Vijay is kind of, he's well, I was thinking we'll have a balanced Nike and Adidas panel, but it looks like an Adidas panel all in all here basically. But Tamil, what about you? What will they will it be the same shoes that you race in that you'll be pacing in?
Yeah, yes. So last year I ran with Adios Adizero Pro 2, and this year I'm
Mhm.
training with the Boston 12. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's comfortable and well, I mean it's going good for me. So possibly I would stick to the Boston 12.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, absolutely, absolute pleasure to have both of you over here, and we just cannot leave you without this one final question, right? And Tamil, I'm going to start with you. Um, some of your best memories over the years from the Tata Mumbai Marathon.
Um, Well, I would say the pedal road, where I was really struggling in my first full marathon. So,
Mhm.
uh, as beginners, we never have an idea of how to train for a full marathon. So the only long distance I had ran was the previous three half marathons which I did. Okay, so I directly, ended up doing the full marathon. So after the 31st kilometer, I injured my IT band, and pedal road. Then pedal road then was a nightmare for me. So yeah, there were people around who pushed me a lot, and I wanted to give up at a point, but then the push from the crowd, kept me going, and I did a good sub five. I mean, starting off the full marathon with a sub five was a great experience for me. I mean, without the crowd, it wouldn't have been possible.
Nice, nice. Vijay, your memories of the Tata Mumbai Marathon over the years.
Well, there are plenty of memories, so I think that requires a 30-minute session separately. But I think if I have to really go back, which really would resonate with a lot of people who are doing Mumbai for the first time, or probably people who go back to Mumbai every year or every other day, every other year. I think the kind of energy that you have in Mumbai is at a different level. I still like the fact I'm not too comfortable with the fact that it's a 5 o'clock start for a full marathon. It does help runners, but it also doesn't help people coming out into the streets
Mm.
in big numbers, because that's what the charm of Mumbai is. But then you have to balance between the two. But the biggest thing for me was obviously the first marathon that I did ever, which was the 2013 the full marathon, and the sheer uh, journey of traveling, not from a far off place. It was still from Pune, but going to a very indescript hotel around the Mumbai CST station, and uh, not being able to sleep because it was the first full marathon. And then Mumbai being a city which never sleeps, you
Mm.
still have plenty of noise around, especially being uh, the CST, around the CST area.
Right.
And then before you know, it's already time to get out and go to the starting line. And this happens every year. The how many ever runs or marathons that you do, uh, you get back to Mumbai, the energy is still intact. And that's what I think differentiates this with any other marathon which you will ever do in this country.
Right. From a nondescript hotel to Trident to fishing for a room this year, Vijay, I'm sure you'll agree that life has come a full circle vis-a-vis the Tata Mumbai Marathon.
And yes, Karthik,
Yeah,
adding
but
to it. Sorry, yes, Vijay, go on.
go on, Tamil.
Yeah, so adding to it, the journey starts from your home. Like you leave, and you leave out with your friends and your training buddies, and there are early trains which run, which reach you to the destination, the start point. So the train itself, when you enter the train, you will see a different view inside. Having a lot of people just with your running bibs, and asking what time are you targeting, like what's your pace, I mean what's your strategy and stuff. So the entire train is completely filled with runners, and I mean even that's a good to see thing in the morning.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yep. Okay. So I think that's a wonderful place to end. We'd just like to add a few notes. As our guest said, the route is yet to be finalized or to be published by Procam. So we will be doing a detailed route preview once the route is out. We'll also be doing a concluding part, Twitter Spaces, where we'll be discussing route related and other logistics in a greater amount of detail. So stay tuned to the Geeks on Feed social media channels for more information on all that and more. Tamil made a mention of the trains, the buses, all that information. Procam does put it out. Ensure that you're able to um, basically make the most of these services that are specially run on race day, right? They also put up information about spectating zones. If there's family traveling with you, where can they spectate you or where they can cheer you from, which is so important in a race like Mumbai. That information will also be put out, and we will also from our side try and supplement it. Yes, we've shared the train table last year and timetable rather last year, and we will continue to do so basically. So keep your eyes open. There's a lot of information that's coming your way. This is, as Vijay said and Tamil kind of endorsed it. This is a festival. This is the greatest Indian running festival. Ganpati Bappa Moria on the start, basically, right in his city. So the vibes have already started building up. And all the very best to all of you who are tapering for Mumbai. Have a great race, and let's hope that the weather gods are at the best of humor this year. On that note, thank you so much, Vijay, and thank you so much, Tamil, and all the very best for your pacing duties.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karthik and team Geeks on Feet. So guys, those who are running with me, please be ready with uh, to enjoy the music like last year. So there will be music on the pacing bus.
Oh, yes, and do join the WhatsApp groups and make life difficult for our pacers with all the questions and queries that you have.